Morning. It's October 16th. I'm Ian Warrender, Director of Warrender Technical Solutions. Thanks for all the shares last week. That was amazing. Thanks to my dad for joining the group. I would love others to join so we can start creating that knowledge base I was talking about. This week, I want to focus on the business consultation side. I'll be switching these briefings to 1 week focus on personal, next on business. The question I want to answer today is why choose me? Why choose WTS to help you with your process and systems improvements? Now we could talk Kaizen, Six Sigma, process stream mapping, the DEMI cycle, the plan, do, check, act, or as I prefer, the identify, implement, evaluate and launch. And we will cover those things in the next few weeks. But today I want to take you back before my 18 years engineering experience, before the first class degree of honours, before the 89% dissertation on knowledge transfer, and tell you a story, a true story. So let's get rid of the graphics. You see, people can be trained in process improvements, but for a few of us, they're wired a little differently. It's more of a natural instinct. One of my first jobs after the typical fast food placements was at a call centre for an agency that booked driving tests as well as providing general queries. It was the early noughts, slow computers, although thanks to software computers have always remained slow, but that's a different discussion. At the time, we were told to try and keep the calls as short as possible to keep the waiting list and the waiting times down. Now the process was simple. There was key data that we needed from each person. When we start the call, we had a standard greetings and a standard few questions that we asked. We were always told to write the answers on a pad of paper. Why not directly in the system? Well, if they had a simple question, like the address of a test centre, query about a letter they received, something general, we could have answered that query and had next person on the call before the system had pulled through the person's details, meaning the next person would be waiting while waiting for the system to refresh. Now, if they were going to book a test, then we put in their details, and then once loaded, we were then prompted for further about 12 questions on a form. A straightforward process. Training took about 2 days. We had 1 day of close monitoring, 2 days of passive monitoring, and the following week you were live, providing you obviously passed the evaluations. I did my training, and on the third day I did everything as shown. I used a pad of paper and everything. However, on the fourth day I switched from using the pad of paper to use a notepad on PC, because I could then write down their answers and copy and paste it directly into the form. After my training week, I started adding to my notes. You see, for the other 12 questions, there were fairly standard answers, or at least elements of repetitive numbers and letters that you use for codes. And I could put them all in the notepad and move them across. By my third week, I had a system. In the minutes before I went live, I'd write down in the form, in the notepad, the full form, with the common alphanumeric answers. Then I would copy that form from the notepad into a second notepad. And when I'd go live, I'd fill out my second notepad with the basic answers that they gave me. It was a general query. I wouldn't even touch the system at all. I'd answer the query, go to my first notepad, copy and paste it to the next one, and then my next call would be on. Say these wanted a test, I would have their basic answers already in the notepad. I would put them into the system, and while the system was thinking, I would then use the notepad to start asking them the remaining questions. Within a few weeks, I got to the point where I was filling out the notepad before the system even came back with their details, which meant that when it did come back, I had the information in the notepad ready just to copy and paste across with very little waiting time for the person. This 2 notepad system served me well. Within 3 weeks I was among the fastest on the floor, and this is up against people with vastly more experience in doing this. Regularly after my first month I was just generally the fastest. However, I created this process on instinct. I didn't have training. I didn't have a degree at that point. Hadn't heard of Six Sigma or value stream mapping. In fact, I came to those things because of how I look at systems. When I entered engineering, everything I've ever done, I look at how to make that process better, how to make it easier for myself, but also how to pass it on to the next place. My manager noted at the time of how well my process was working and suggested showing others. My experience at the time meant I did not push that. I did not try and improve the process for everyone. Today in that same situation, I'd use metrics to show the improvements of a method. I would discuss to see if we could get the system or a different system to replicate what I was doing. Back then, unfortunately for them, I was looking for my next challenge. And although I was offered a supervisory role, I moved into engineering instead. So why hire me? Why come to WTS? Well, because in addition to my experience, there's a fundamental understanding of process improvement, fundamental understanding of that training cannot replicate. If you want to hear more, there's plenty of ways to get in touch with me. Please use one of them and let's chat about how I can help your business. Thank you.